Want to get better at World of Tanks? I'm your Watt Coach 13 Disciple, and this is Coach's Corner. Hey guys, today we have the pleasure of watching our friend Big Ty on the map Live Oaks in his T20. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is that the T20 is a tank that I call the Mosquito. It's very small, and it has a pretty nice gun, and it's extremely mobile. And why I call it the Mosquito is because what I like to do with it is drive around flanking enemies and just nibbling at their sides until they die. Death by 1,000 cuts, if you will. So anyways, let's get into the tank lineup here on Live Oaks. So we can see that this is a triple Arnie matchup, and we have a 2-tier spread. We have tier 8 and we have tier 7. So we have a pretty good opportunity to influence the outcome of this match. We also do have a few tank destroyers in here, not too many. Not that many heavies either. There's only 3 heavies and then a handful of mediums rounding out the bottom. Now, one thing I want to think to myself is if I'm going to play in the south, my tank is not very good at hull down. What other tanks am I opposing that might be better suited? And honestly, there's really just the T29 and the T2065. So it depends on where they go, how aggressive I could play in the south. So let's take a look at the minimap and discuss where I would probably end up first. So I would say there's 2 major positions. One of my favorites is to go up here early on to get some early damage on anything that light tank spot in this area over here. And sometimes you can hit tank destroyer or heavies moving into these crossings or stuff in this building here. But you basically get a pretty wide angle of fire on anything that a light tank would spot. Now, as it were, there aren't any light tanks in this lineup, so that may not be a super useful position if nobody else on your team is doing any spotting. So where would we go in this instance? So since we don't have any light tank spotting for us in this area, there's not a whole lot of reason to set up right over here. So the question is, where do we go? Well, we have really, a couple of options. You could still play up in this area, but you'd be passive for most of the game. The next best thing to do would be to maybe come with your team down into here and play over here, possibly over there. And you could also follow the heavies and try to be a nuisance in the city, but realize that trading 1-for-1 may not be the best idea in this little tier 7 medium. Anyways, let's get into the match and see how it goes. Guys, if you're interested in having your replay featured on Coach's Corner, down in the description will be a link to our Discord channel. Inside Discord is a channel called Coach's Corner, and that's where we usually look for our replays. So for whatever reason, we're heading towards the 1 line. That doesn't feel super useful. Maybe you think you're on the north side of the map. Yeah, so I would say that driving this way doesn't make any sense. Because if you're going to go up the 1 line, it doesn't offer you any better, like doing this takes a lot more time to get into a position when it's nearly just as safe just to do that. So you got to be asking yourself, why am I wasting time doing this when I could be doing this? My guess is you probably think you're on the north side of the map heading this way. And maybe it's going to dawn on you, yeah, right now that you're heading in the wrong direction. It happens. So it looks like we're going to play in the south with our friendly forces here. Not a horrible choice. Just got to keep an eye that there are 3 artillery. The more time you spend spotted, the more vulnerable you're going to be to a lot of indirect fire damage. Wasting no time getting through the water there. Looks like your Type 5-9 is going very deep. Looks like he is going to take that first riverbed there. Generally, the first team that is able to take this riverbed down here, look on the minimap, the first team that's able to take that riverbed there usually is able to control the engagement much better. So we see there is a top tier heavy over there. Looks like we are going to cross to try and support our Type 5-9. Try and stay dark as best as you can. Yep, looks like we didn't get spotted through that, which is good. And now we're kind of in a tough spot. Okay, so from what we can tell, let me drop onto the minimap here real quick. So what we can tell is that there's nobody in this dip here, and all we have is this one enemy in this area. So what we can assume is that there's a whole bunch of triangles probably over here and maybe some over here. These triangles are waiting for somebody to make a play on their T20 and then they just get to farm whoever pushes over. The T20 gets a whole bunch of assist damage, and whoever drops over probably dies almost instantly. Now from the other side of the map, you have possibly a tank destroyer over here looking for shots over here, and you have this tank destroyer looking both directions, this way or possibly down this way. So what do you do in this scenario where you've kind of already won the south, but you don't want to push on this T20 because you'll get obliterated by tank destroyers in the back? So one of my favorite plays to make is to come down around here and stay low in this dip and then approach from underneath this ridge. So the reason why you want to stay low is because most tanks, if they are up in here, or even if there's a bush over here, if they're up in here, they have to drive forward to get shots on you. And when they drive forward, they lose their hard cover here, and they'll be exposed to anyone here, anybody up here, or even anyone over here. The idea is that even though you might take damage, anybody else on your team looking for shots will be able to do more damage than you're going to be taking from that single tank destroyer. So it looks like we're gonna come up to, yep. It looks like you're thinking about doing the play that I like to do. I would use that bush to try and stay in cover. Nope. So what I would try to do in this instance would actually be to approach a little bit closer to this bush and actually keep the bush as my form of concealment. Because when you poke on this side of the bush, if there is anything on these rails, they will have direct line of sight and you won't have the bush providing you bonus camo. If you approach a little bit closer to the left, these trees have you covered from any of these tank destroyer positions out here. And then this bush gives you a little bit of concealment in the area that you're trying to spot in. We didn't spot anything. We also didn't have Sixth Sense go off. I don't think there's anything up there. One thing I do want to point out is you don't have max view range. So my recommendation is, at least on the T20, is maybe set up your vehicle to have more view range, whether that means running optics or using more crew skills that improve view range. We're still not interested in using this bush for concealment in front of us, right? So, like I said, by going on this side of the bush, anything that's over here is going to outspot you, okay? Your Sixth Sense is going to go off, and you're not going to be able to spot anything in this bush. If you approach through this bush here, you will have the concealment of this bush added to your camo, so you're less likely to be spotted. And then if you don't see anybody in this bush, what you can do, if you want to be 200 IQ about it, you could just take a blind shot. Just make sure that you shoot through this bush and that it's not opaque. Make sure that it's transparent. So that way you lose the camo of the bush. If there is somebody in this, your Sixth Sense will go off. So the idea is that you roll close to this bush, you just take a blind shot anywhere, and then you immediately drive backwards and wait for your Sixth Sense. If your Sixth Sense does go off, that means more than likely there's somebody in this bush. If it doesn't go off, then you should be clear to start making your way down here. So it looks like we're going to turn around and maybe try to support the mediums on the other side. This is still very, very dangerous to make this play because of all the tank destroyers they have on the back. It looks like your Type 5-9 is rolling up on the rails there to try and provide a little more. Okay, so he bailed. He saw the two tank destroyers and thought, you know what, I'm not going to drive into that. That was smart. No, look for the Scorpion. Look for the Scorpion. Okay, sorry. You have a shot on the Scorpion right here, I'm pretty sure. The Scorpion is way easier to pen. The only way you can pen this E5 is if you get lucky by dipping into a track wheel here, or you hit these little slivers of armor on the corner of his turret, right? So this is a really hard shot to penetrate. This is a really easy shot to penetrate, and the Scorpion is the bigger threat here. right? Because you guys can pile in down on this T-2065 and kill him earlier. It's these tank destroyers on the back that are going to keep him alive for longer. The quicker we take out these tank destroyers in the back, the quicker we can dive on this T-2065. So your T-20 on the bottom there got spotted and is getting crapped on. What I see here that you're doing, whether you're doing it on purpose or not, you have this line of bushes between you and this T-2065. If this foliage wasn't here, he would be able to spot you easily because the distance is very, very short. What we see from your allies is that they don't have this line of bushes between them and the T-2065. So he's spotting them when they roll up this corner. And look, this guy's already down half his hit points because there's tank destroyers in the back here that are providing him cover fire. The T-2065 in this instance, he is not trying to actually do damage. All he's trying to do is provide vision for his tank destroyers. Every time he rolls up, he's only doing it just enough to spot his enemies and then roll back down. And then he lets his tank destroyers in the back handle it, right? By doing it this way, he minimizes the amount of exposure that he's providing to himself and maximizing the amount of damage his team is doing to the flank in the south. One thing I also want to point out here while we're looking at it and paused is that there is a pretty big overmatch going on, and we saw this last week, 2 weeks ago, in another Coach's Corner on Live Oaks. You have 4 tanks here, and they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like 6, maybe more. They're going to win this side pretty quickly. Your artillery pieces need to start rotating this way, and you guys need to make a plan. You either need to push through as a group or fall back, because these guys are going to lose and you're going to have to defend that cap. Still looking for shots. We aren't getting them. So the Type 59 looks like he's falling back. He is indeed. So the Type 59 is doing probably what I would have done, but much sooner. That was actually pretty close to being a penetrating shot there. Okay, so what you see here is the Type 59 and the Hellcat making this play. Once they get up here, they can roll up this ridge and spot these tank destroyers, or they can continue up through here and spot any tank destroyers that are here or any tank destroyers that are here. So what you need to do, that's probably what you should have been doing about 45 to a minute ago, 45 to 60 seconds ago, but you don't have to now. So your job now is to start shooting whatever they spot. I would even consider driving further forward. This is good, yes. See the Type 59, or actually, who was that just did that? This Super Hellcat is going to lose all of his hit points, but he did spot the Scorpion for you, and he is going to start putting pressure on the C5. You need to take down the Scorpion as quickly as possible, which you should do relatively easily. Okay, it looks like the other tank destroyer was lit briefly, and he's down now. So look for the next tank destroyer or go for that T-2065. If we look at the mini-map, it didn't take very long, but I was right. The Reds here are going to start pushing through here, or they're going to start falling back, but they've won this side of the map, which means you guys need to clean up this T-2065, try and finish off this tank destroyer, and either fall back or keep pushing forward. The longer that you spend on this flank battling it out, the more likely they are to win it. Yeah, you guys as a team need to finish this as quickly as you can so you can start defending base. All right, the Ferdinand is up. You can shoot the Ferdinand in the lower plate or the little corners on the side of his hull. T-25 AT is up as well. That should be a relatively easy pen. Nice kill shot there. There we go. Now we're looking much better. We need to consider moving back to defend base. That was a lucky accuracy roll. There is an artillery up. Focus the artillery down, because artillery could bail them out of this game if they live long enough. Okay, I think it's time to rotate back to cap to start defending. Or we can push through with our allies. That's fine too. Their mediums, if their mediums push through, they'd be on cap right about now. So maybe their mediums didn't go for cap. If you lose your artillery, you're a lot less likely to win this game, by the way. So if their mediums are rotating all the way through to go to your artillery, it's much more likely a loss than it is a win, because artillery is essential in getting resets on cap pressure. So it looks like their mediums came back, or at least one of them with the... Yep, both mediums came back with the TS5. That was an unlucky accuracy roll. You're spotted for that because the bush was opaque when you were... was transparent when you were shooting through it. I think it's okay to follow the Type 5-9 where he's headed. So here's the thing about the Type 5-9 play. It might look like he's really exposed by driving this way, right? By doing this, but he's actually in the low ground. So if anybody is going to come over on top of him from the enemies, you'll have shots, and well, if there were any other tanks down here, they would also have shots. So this is looking like a loss, but I would say it's still winnable. Even though, okay, you have more tanks than they do, but they have probably a lot more map control, right? Because they own pretty much all of this of the map, and your 3 artillery are very exposed right now. So you should be trying to keep them alive, if at all possible. And supporting your Type 5-9 is a big, big play right now. Because if they start capping, the Type 5-9 is going to be the one that's going to get the resets. I would say you're probably good to move up to that bush there. Yeah, this is a better play. The closer you are, the better off you are to get damage. Okay, cap pressure has started. They have something on cap. It's not a T20, it's not a TS5. It's either a T29, a Tiger 1, or both. Right now, it's only one of them. Your Type 5-9 is moving. So the Type 5-9 is rotating to go back to cap. That's an unfortunate miss. That's okay, though. Okay, so what's happening is the Type 5-9 is hearing cap points. He wants to come back over here, get damage, or at least spot. If he spots something, then Artie can get all the resets they need. This T20 is thinking, okay, I need to protect the cap pressure. He's going to chase the Type 5-9, trying to get damage and kill him before he can get resets. So your goal right now is to keep the Type 59 alive by shooting at this T20 right in front of you. This is a good target prioritization right here. You can get one more in, then you'll save your Type 5-9 pretty well here. That was huge. Now your Type 5-9 can basically worry about getting resets. So there's 2 on cap, which means that both the T29 and the Tiger 1 are both on cap. If they're both together, perhaps a single splash can reset both of them, but it's hugely important for the Type 59 to get vision on cap, and you need to keep defending him against that TS5, assuming the TS5 is going over there. Looks like the TS5 is coming back to defend his cap. Oh, this is really good. This is really good. Okay, guys. There's really big things happening right now, and I'm going to pause it here so I can talk about it in detail, because this is what's going to win or lose games, all right? You have 3 artillery here, you've got this TS5 here, and you've got cap pressure going here. The Type 59 is probably going to use this ridge line to both get vision and resets if he can, but the big thing here is that he's going to use artillery to drop bombs and get these resets going, okay? Here's the big thing. This T20, and maybe soon the Carnarvon over here, are going to start getting cap pressure on the enemy side, okay? This M4043 is probably retreated all the way back, maybe somewhere over here, maybe he's over here. The M4043 can potentially get resets, okay? But here's the thing. They only have a TS5 that's able to give vision or get resets. So the TS5 has to make a choice, right? Or at least he doesn't have a choice right now. He has to go get resets, all right? The TS5 frontally is going to be very, very difficult for your T20 or the Carnarvon to penetrate from that distance. So actually, what you need to do right now is to use the pressure that the cap has in order to kill the TS5. And here's the thing. Let's say the TS5 keeps moving forward to get the reset, okay? What you have to do is use that as an advantage. You have to come up to his side and put a shot into his side. Once you damage him from the side of his tank, he now has to make a choice. And here's the choice the enemy has to make. he's going to think to myself, I'm the TS5, I'm going to think to myself, do I push in order to get the cap reset because they've got the siren going, the pressure is on. If I want to win the game, I have to try and get resets. Or do I turn around and try and shoot the T20 because he's getting free damage on me, okay? You have an opportunity to get unreturned damage and prevent him from getting resets. He has to make the decision. You either get a bunch of free damage and allow him to reset your team, or he turns and your team caps out. That's the way you need to be thinking. This is what I'm talking about when I say World of Tanks is a lot like chess, because he has to make a choice either to face off against you or keep pushing to get resets, allowing you to farm all the hit points of his tank, right? Because he has 1,400 hit points, which you could potentially have added to your already 1,100 damage, right? So I would say wait for him to maybe get a little bit closer and then just drive around him. Get to the back of his tank and just start shooting at him, because the only other tank on the map that can do damage to you is the M4043, and you have a repair kit up. So if you get tracked by the M4043, you can just repair it and stay mobile, and by the time the M4043 can shoot again, you'll probably have killed the TS5. I would say falling back right now is actually a pretty big mistake, especially with the S51 on the ridge. That seems kind of silly to me. Both of your other tanks are one-shots, and you just lost all your cap pressure, okay? So that guy just reset cap, killed the tank that was putting the cap pressure on, and took no damage for it, okay? Because your Artie is trying to get resets here. It didn't have to be this way. If you had come up behind him or on his side and started shooting him, you would have already had probably two shots of free damage, and your teammate wouldn't have died for nothing. At this point, your teammate really didn't... I mean, he didn't die for nothing because he was trying to get cap pressure going. The failure here is that we didn't take advantage of it, and you easily could have taken advantage of it. Don't be afraid. If you're full health and there's only 2-3 tanks left in the game, just go in and try and get some damage. Again, do it smartly, but cap pressure in that instance, going after him while you had cap pressure on, would have been much easier to flank him. And now trying to flank him would be very hard because he's going to have shots on you for every meter that you drive towards him, right? You wanted to come up around the side of him where he didn't have vision on you earlier in this match. It was smart to track him to keep him away from your allies, but now he knows where you are. Not that that's a huge problem for him. So hopefully what I probably would have tried to do there was shoot him to the point where he doesn't want to sit on that hill, or keep him lit for artillery. 16 seconds. It's coming down to the wire. You need to get reset. Okay, there you go. There's a big kill on our cap that got those resets there. Now is the perfect time. Okay, so the TS5 is below this ridge line. Now is the perfect time to come in behind him. Like, the TS5 has very slow rotation speed, and you have excellent mobility. You can literally be the mosquito I talked about at the beginning of the game and just melt his hit points away 7.93 seconds at a time. Easy peasy. The only thing that could stop you would be the M4043. And you could have done it 3 minutes ago. You would have another 1,400 damage on this vehicle 3 minutes ago. Looks like now we're thinking, all right, he's the last one alive, might as well try. Yeah, you definitely had the advantage on him. You didn't need to do it this way. Like, look how long it takes him to turn. Now he's tracked, so it doesn't matter. Even if your reload isn't quick enough to keep him perma-tracked, meaning you shoot him in the tracks before he's able to repair, you still could have just sat behind him the entire time, and he wouldn't been able to turn quick enough to see you. And that's the last tank in the game. Wow, that was a lucky accuracy roll. You really only had one bad accuracy roll this entire match, which is pretty stellar. Well, that was quite the game. Big Ty, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something about cap pressure and how you can use it to your advantage to get a little more damage towards the end of the game. And even if you didn't have cap pressure, I would say that you probably totally could have YOLO'd that TS5 and taken him down pretty easily by yourself even. So guys, that's going to be it for this Coach's Corner. We'll see you in the next episode. And don't forget, if you have questions on this or any other thing in World of Tanks, you can catch me live on Twitch every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Take it easy, guys.